Hey guys, just got three new puzzles in today. One is called the Fisher Cube, one is called the Windmill Cube, and the one in the middle is called the Axis Cube. Um, there are 3x3 mods, and if you're like things like the mirror puzzle or the bump cube, these may be right up your alley. I'm going to give you some quick information about these cubes, and hopefully you'll be interested enough to go out and buy one on your own, and it'll change things up a bit for you. It is a little boring solving the same thing all the time, but I really do urge you not to look up solutions to these, since if you are looking at this, you can probably already solve a 3x3, and that's all you really need to know about these. But I'm going to give you some basic info about them. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Fisher Cube. And you'll notice it does resemble a 3x3, but it doesn't really turn exactly like a 3x3 would. Because if you want to keep it in a square, you can only use 180s. But just because you can only use 180s to get it back to a square doesn't mean you can't turn it 90 and then turn it again. So you'll notice this Fisher Cube can jumble up quite a bit. You can get some really interesting looking shapes. It is not a very difficult puzzle because visually you're not going to struggle with it all that much. These are the centers of each side, just like you would see on a 3x3, but instead of the edge pieces being in a traditional spot, these corner pieces, or the things that look like corners, are actually the edges, and the edge pieces are actually the corner pieces on this puzzle. Other than that, as long as you're willing to realign the edges, you shouldn't really run into any problems with this Fisher Cube. I do think it's an interesting puzzle, and maybe I'll put a tutorial out on how to solve it later. Also, all of these are from the company YJ. I was interested in getting it from YJ because they have really cheap magnetic 3x3s and higher now, and I just wanted to see if their version 2 of these three puzzles was up to par. I'm really interested in taking this in a solve state and trying to make different shapes out of it. Maybe like you would make a checkerboard pattern. Like, what would a checkerboard pattern look like on this? I have no idea, but this is the Fisher Cube. It's a fantastic puzzle, and if you're trying to spend some extra time on 3x3 and just want to break from the monotony, this is a great puzzle for you. The next one up on the list is the Windmill Cube. There's really not much of a difference between the Fisher Cube and the Windmill Cube. Notice we do have a center that is white, and the edges I think are easier to see actually. These are actually going to be your edges right here. So if you're doing CFOP and you're trying to make white cross, this is what you would want to make first. And obviously these would be your corner pieces. Since it is solved similar to a super cube, I guess it is, well, almost. These edges, you need to solve like a super cube. You can do 180 turns, and this is where it gets a little different. If you do 180 turns, it does not actually shoot you the same shape back out. You know what? Let me try that checkerboard pattern. Middle slice all of them. So I've never really done this with this before. Should be interesting to see what it looks like. You can layer these a little bit. Looks like a ninja star almost. But if you do want to turn it, you need to line up all of those pieces and jumble from there. Like I said before, this puzzle is really no different than the Fisher Cube as far as difficulty goes. It's just another puzzle to switch it up a bit. Once again, this is a YJ puzzle. It is their version 2 of the Windmill Cube. I believe Moyu makes something called a crazy windmill and a crazy Fisher. The only difference between the crazy ones is these are vertical cuts, whereas the crazy ones from Moyu are more diagonal cuts. So I wanted to bring up the diagonal cuts for one reason. The last cube we're going to take a look at is called the Axis Cube, And this one took me a little while to do, but it is manageable. So this guy right here is called the Axis Cube, and it did take me a little while to figure it out because I originally tried to solve it as this right here being the cross, and I was just dead wrong. What you need to do on this puzzle is recognize that the centers are actually these pieces right here. So when you go to turn this puzzle, you need to remember that certain things are centers. This is a center, this is a center, and this is a center. This is a center, this is a center. So when you turn this cube 90 degrees, you're really doing something like this. And this is not a very natural motion. I remember taking this right out of the box and I was like, wow. You couldn't even get it to turn. But if you just remember that these are your positioning axes right here, this piece, you can actually start to see a band in there. And once I figured out how to turn the puzzle, it was really not that difficult. But your cross on this puzzle is actually going to be multiple colors. If this is the center right here, then this is the cross right here, and it is not something you would normally think of doing. So you get this like X shape right here, and then this piece will be a corner. This piece would be a corner. This piece would be a corner, and this piece will be a corner. So this is a really interesting puzzle. And as you get to the last layer, you'll notice that this was our center, right? But on these puzzles right here, this was our center, and this was our center. So the orientation of the top center does matter. So you will need to know how to fully solve a supercube in order to get the final solution to this. It's a very interesting puzzle. I'm going to jumble it up just a bit for you to give you an idea of what it can look like. It was pretty intimidating at first, but let me tell you, it was a fun puzzle to do. And once you can wrap your head around how this thing moves, you can really get the hang of it. Now, if I was going to do this over again, I would not move it as quickly as possible. I would really just stick to these 90-degree turns and take my time with it, try to figure out how to actually turn this puzzle before I started solving it. Once I started doing that, I really finished it pretty quick. But this is called the Axis Cube. I think it's a fantastic puzzle, and I do plan on picking up a Ghost Cube. I don't want to get the one that's not Mefrit's Ghost Cube. I know the Ghost Cube from Mefrit's is a little bit more money, but you know, I want to get the real deal. I don't want to get I think it's called the I don't want to say the name of it because I'm not sure about what it's called, but there is a company that makes Ghost Cubes, but Mefrit's, I believe, was the original maker, and that's what I want to get it from. So guys, this should be fun. Let's see if we can get them back on there. Oh man, that does not hold very well. It's on there though. What about this one? Yeah. Once again, we have the Fisher Cube, the Windmill Cube over here, and in the middle, the Axis Cube. They're fantastic puzzles. I would recommend anyone pick them up that can solve a 3x3 just to change it up a bit. Have a great night, guys. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the section below or go to the discussion page. Have a great night.